It's podcast. You're listening to Gorehead and the Wiener. Am I recording?
To another episode of Gorehead and the Wiener.
Welcome.
Part 2 of our scary old people video series.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what the third one is to finish it off, because
well,
I will say I think this one I think the gore was a little easier to handle in this one, but overall the movie made me more uncomfortable.
Yes, from your reactions when we recorded the commentary, it was very evident that you were uncomfortable.
It's an uncomfortable movie, but
we should also say that we're talking about the Taking of Deborah Logan.
Yes, so we're talking about, it's sort of like a found footage film. It's like a documentary style movie in a sense, though I think they didn't lean as hard into it as I thought they would, because there's definitely some footage that is more like the shaky camera, shaky hand cam. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, hand cam.
Handy cam.
Essentially,
handy
yeah.
cam.
I'm not a big fan of. It's like, I understand. It can be used effectively in small little spurts.
I actually kind of like it, but it has to be done on a believable premise. Like, I actually do like the Blair Witch Project, and I liked, I didn't mind, what is it, Cloverfield Lane?
Oh, yeah, Cloverfield. Yeah, Cloverfield Lane's the other follow-up movie, but Cloverfield is the monster movie. Yeah. Yeah, the handy.
Good. Yeah. It was a little excessive, but I think it was
It's a little unbelievable in Cloverfield, because if I was a normal person, I wouldn't be documenting Godzilla destroying the city that I'm living in. I'd be like, fuck this! I'm out of here! I don't need to videotape this!
There could have been a more creative way to find ways to record it, but and then, I don't know, I'm not like the biggest Paranormal Activity fan, but I think for what it is, it's effective. It's kind of become like a niche thing, but I think the best example I've seen of the found footage style movie is the Blair Witch Project, but that was kind of the original
started it all. It was a very clever idea, and people actually thought it was real, so it was very effective.
Yeah, that was their whole marketing tactic, is that it is real footage that people found. And they died.
They nailed it. They nailed it. Hey, speaking of Godzilla, the guy who made the Blair Witch now directs the Godzilla movies.
Oh, okay.
I'm always so happy when I see him with Adam Wingard. I'm like, you go.
Okay.
You made the Blair Witch.
He made it.
Yeah.
He made it. Good for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we are talking about the Taking of Deborah Logan. Mm-hmm. And before we get super far into it, I will let you introduce the movie, Chris.
Alrighty, here we go. Deborah Logan's an independent Southern belle who's used to getting the job done. Unfortunately, Deborah's about to learn that she can't solve all of her problems alone. And when she's taken, it's up to Liam Neeson to tear across France to get her back in The Taking of Deborah Logan.
Wow. That definitely doesn't sound like the movie.
As soon as I realized it said "taken" in the name, all I could think about was Liam Neeson coming and then, like, beating the shit out of people to rescue Deborah Logan. I formed a whole fake movie in my mind about Deborah Logan going to France and getting rescued by Liam Neeson.
So that's not what happens in the movie, but I appreciate your intro. And I just think when I think of Liam Neeson, I just think of, it's like an example of how not to edit. And it's like 10 to 20 shots, 10 to 20 shots of him trying to climb over this fence, but he's so old that he can't do it, so they just keep cutting to different sections of him on the fence.
And there's so much like intense music happening, and it's like an old man climbing a fence.
It doesn't look impressive at all because they basically just had to edit all these shots together to make it seem impressive. Whereas like someone young could just like whip over this fence in like one take.
Why didn't they just get a stunt double to just like hop over the fence?
Yeah, just get a stunt double. Come on, don't make old Liam do that.
His knees can't take it.
His knees. His poor
he might rip a
knees.
hole in his pants if he gets caught on the chain link.
Oh yeah, he would. He would too.
Don't want that.
Don't want it. So yeah, and I'm sure everyone is familiar with the premise of this show by now. But the gore summary, I'm just gonna go briefly over this.
You should start getting aggressive with the audience now if they don't understand it by this point.
If you don't get it, go back, watch our previous episodes and frickin' figure it out, okay? I've explained this so many times. Honestly, though, I feel like I should keep, like, putting in reminders because we don't have, like, a huge audience. So it's very likely that people are just popping... Yeah. Well, I feel like people just pop in onto movies that they want to hear about, not necessarily watch from the beginning, so...
Yes, true.
Yeah,
also,
basically...
among those 10 is the two of us as well, so shameless confirmation. So we really only have 8 human beings aside from the two of us that sometimes will listen.
I'm very surprised that we have that many, because I'm pretty sure most of them are just like my friends and your friends, and they're just being good supporters, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, God.
Supporting our dreams. They're supporting our dreams.
Sitting in our bedrooms talking about horror movies.
Oh, man. But yeah, so yeah, literally, that is what we're doing. But the gist of Gorehead and the Wiener is I just basically am bad at watching gory movies, and Chris is slowly introducing me to more and more gory movies, and we talk about it after I've forced myself through it, and then I give a rating for people who also are bad with gore like me, and I give it a rating of however many gory wieners out of 5. And if it's a 5 out of 5 gory wiener, that means it's 100% you can watch this, no issue at all. 0, you should stay away. Don't watch this.
That's Serbian
Never watch
film.
it. That's
for anyone who doesn't know what Serbian film is, do not look it up. I swear to God, it will make your life worse.
Is it like a snuff film kind of a thing?
I'll just say that the creator of the movie was under investigation by the police because they were worried that some of the stuff that happened in the movie happened for real.
Wow. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Not gonna look that up. Forget Chris even said that.
I haven't even watched it. I just know of some scenes, and that made me never want to watch it.
Wow.
Like,
that's cool.
No.
So if
oh my God,
if you haven't seen the previous movie, it was X, which is the first movie in our old person horror movie series. There's trilogy.
A trilogy of old people movies.
And I gave that one a 3 out of 5 on the Gore Wiener rating, and this one is a 3.5 on the Gore Wiener rating, so it's a little easier to handle from a gore perspective, but I will say, like, apart from the gore, it is uncomfortable because I kept expecting there to be more gore than there was, because it felt like there were so many opportunities for things to happen, in my brain at least.
They do a good job of being restrained. It's not just jump scares a minute, which I appreciate.
But
a lot of found
tense.
footage movies really fall into the pitfall of just jump scares, because it's easy to push a camera in someone's face and yell at the camera.
And thankfully, like, the jump scares felt very normal. Like, the camera would pan over and you would just see the creepy old lady just standing there, and she wouldn't do like the at the camera. She'd just be standing there.
Yeah, it's not like
which is
watching The Nun. It's just like watching an old person run at the camera for 2 hours. Just like,
exactly.
I get it. They have a scary face that runs at the camera. It's startling.
Yeah. Wow. Good for you. You have a scary face.
My cat can scare me sometimes when it jumps on me. So.
Yeah. This movie isn't like that. So for 3.5 out of 5. So it is watchable, absolutely watchable. And the first thing to watch out for. The first gory thing that happened was there's a lot of this, of skin peeling. So be prepared. There is a skin peeling in this episode, and it's gross.
I'd say that's like that's a very nice way to put it. I would say it's more like skin tearing, because peeling kind of implies that it's maybe falling off on its own. But Deborah's quite active in her removal of her skin.
Oh, she's quite active. That's gross.
Deborah don't give a shit about her skin. A dermatologist would be very disappointed.
Deborah don't give no shits about her skin. There's a scene, like, I think this is the very first gory thing, and I was not expecting this at all. Like, so she's staring out a window, and people are like, Deborah, what are you doing? Are you okay? And she, like, turns toward camera and screams and rips the skin off of her throat. Oh, what? Say what now? What is this about? What is this?
It's a well-crafted story, and there is meaning behind why she chooses that part of her body.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Yeah,
it's gross.
Story-driven gore. Classy.
Story-driven gore, thankfully. Like, there's a point to all of the gore, which I do appreciate, but it is still gore.
Still unsettling when you see an old lady tear her throat out.
Exactly. I would say that actually that one might be the worst one. The one at the very beginning. There is
out of the skin tearing scenes, yeah, I would say so. Or do you think that's the worst gore for you out of the whole movie?
I think it was the worst gore for me. Yeah, because I would say it is. And unless you remind me of a part that I forgot.
I have one in my mind, which is...
Okay, well, and then the next thing, we'll get there.
If you get to it, I'll tell you my most cringy part of the movie, because,
Okay.
Keep going down
and
the
then
list.
we just see images of dead bodies. There was like a cannibalistic ritual, and it's sort of like news stock footage of, well, probably didn't show them on the news, but like crime scene footage of fucked up bodies that
they watch a documentary while they're filming a documentary.
Yeah.
Double doc.
And there's more skin peeling. She peels off her arm at one point.
She gets out of her harness. She gets out of like the harnesses because at one point she's strapped to the bed. She's so unstable, and she just like slides her hands out, and just like her skin just like peels off like a glove.
Oh, that was disgusting. But it was like it almost happened because I was cringing a lot in this movie, so I was kind of like half watching it, half thought that.
There's a lot of like.
There's points. If we ever show the commentary, because I kept like touching my face, trying to avoid covering my eyes because I just didn't want to watch it. So I kept just like, okay, I'm going to touch my forehead. I'm going to like squish my cheeks up. I'm going to like cover the side peripherals of my vision.
The stages of Emma's fear. And then by the end of the movie, you were actually physically over to the right of your camera as much as possible. And you were just kind of like squinting your eyes and like even like pursing your mouth so you were getting like as tiny as possible.
I was getting the small face going. The small face.
So you know you've entered the fear zone. Emma's tiny face comes out.
The small face is out. The small face.
Fear makes your actual face run away from you.
Yeah, it's gone. It's out the window. And we see a Spinal Tap.
That's the one for me. God, I want to barf watching. I hate watching medical needles.
I hate it too.
Spinal Tap is the grossest thing ever, and I have a personal fear of ever getting a Spinal Tap.
Because to me, it was gross to watch, but it wasn't like gore. It was more gross to see her like spine, like because
it's so bony. She's so skinny.
Because she has such a bony back, you can see.
She looks like a stegosaurus, the dinosaur with all the plates on their back. Like
it's funny because I used to be made fun of, and I still have like the boniest back. And like my sister would call me a dinosaur because that's what my back reminded her of.
Oh, that's nice.
As my spine just sticks out. I don't know. I just don't.
You have a prominent spine. Maybe that means you have a really strong back, you know.
I don't really gain much fat on my back, so it always just stays super bony as hell. So like sitting, if I am like curved like this and I like back up against a wall, I can hear my spine. Like if I do this, you could hear like
rolling, bone noises
with my back.
It's
So,
my
yeah.
back.
It's my back. I'm
Can you
an
hear
old
it?
lady.
My back's rattling on the wall again.
Yeah, I got a bone in back. So yes, I'm also a Stegosaurus. I could be used as a back actress for these movies. That could very well be my back. I'm a back actress for bony old ladies.
She fills in. She's the #1 spinal fill-in. I use her everywhere.
That's my famous back.
You go to conferences and talk about your your
the
technique.
success of being a back actor. Yeah.
Sounds like a Seinfeld
then-
episode, like when George becomes a hand model.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah,
I'm
the Spinal
sorry
Tap.
about your bony back condition, Emma.
Don't make fun of bony backs, okay?
Hey, Stegosaurus was
It's
my favorite
real.
dinosaur. I thought that was super cool.
now you're trying to cover your bases. So yeah, and then I guess like they are pretty cool. They are cool. So yeah, I guess the other skin peeling was the one we already mentioned with the wrist skin coming off, and it's all disgusting.
Yeah, very Gerald
And I'll
skin.
say, oh no, I don't want to watch that one. And I'll say like the found footage style of filming does kind of help with hiding the details of the gore. So it makes it a little bit more watchable, I'll say. So like, because with the wrist thing, I think it didn't bother me that much because I couldn't really tell that
It's
that's
on
what
like a
was
grainy
happening.
security camera footage, so
Yeah.
you're not really sure, because I didn't even really realize at first, like, did she pull her skin off? Should she have her skin still? And it's like, later in the movie.
Did she have her skin?
He's like, did she have
Was
her
her
skin?
skin
No.
there?
And then the answer to that is no, when she's holding the hand of a child with her, like,
you see her
fleshed
later.
hands.
You see her later, and she has no skin left on her hands and like wrists. It's lovely.
There's a lot of just, like, gross pictures of her being, like, sickly looking, and just, like, showing her back a lot, like, when it's all scaly and, like...
Yeah, there's
got all
that.
these,
That
like,
my
weird-
my next point on the list is Deborah's looking rough.
Oh boy, Deborah
all it
goes
says.
through a transition in this movie. She's like,
She was looking pretty normal at the start. She looked like a nice older woman, and then she looks real rough near like the second half of the movie. And
poor
then I put
Deborah.
at one point I'm like, she's basically skinless, but it's really just her hands and her arms. She's not fully skinless. I remember
Oh, that
like
would be
contemplating
brutal.
throughout the movie, I'm like, I bet at the end the reveal is that she's just skinned herself.
oh, that would be really brutal and awesome, actually, if, like, she had, like, no, like, skin left on her face, or, I don't know, I guess that'd just be too much makeup on top of makeup. Maybe they didn't have the budget.
That would be a lot. That'd be a lot. Yeah, and then she...
full body skinning.
I'm not at all. And then there's a guy that gets acid in his face. You don't
Yeah.
really see it. You see like him cover his face and it looks all burnt. And then there's a part where there's a child that like how much do I give away? Okay, wait. Stop listening if you don't want spoilers, okay?
Yeah, this is gore
I can't-
spoiled territory.
This end now, like the last point I make is gonna spoil the movie, so turn it off if you don't want to hear it. You have 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, yeah, so the last point is that this kid basically gets like sucked up by a snake lady, partially.
But wait, Emma, isn't this movie about an old woman having Alzheimer's?
What? Oh. Yeah, that's why I said spoilers.
Yeah. It's just
Because
so funny
spoilers,
to say that out loud. It's like, yep,
that.
that's where the movie goes, is turns into
Snake
a goddamn
lady.
snake lady. It's just such
Snake lady.
I would say it's a testament to the movie at how, like, normal it starts out as. Like, it starts out as a very, very normal movie, and then you go from normal lady to snake lady.
Yeah, because, like, when you start watching it and you learn that it's about this documentary crew that are just kind of documenting.
I'm a documentationer. I document.
Yes, I am a documentationer that is about to document your descent into Alzheimer's. So yeah, that's what they're documenting, and they're also documenting the family members.
Yeah, how a disease can physically and emotionally affect their family members. Like, how a disease isn't just the person having the disease. It spreads and creates, pain and suffering through everyone that is in their lives, essentially. And
which is a good point.
Yeah, because they actually do physical tests on the daughter to show that she is being physically altered by just the stress of having to take care of her mom.
Oh yeah, the daughter's a full-blown alcoholic.
She's got a lot. Yeah, also, she's got a complicated relationship with her mom. You find out throughout the course of the movie.
Yeah.
The poor lady.
So we can get into the details of the movie now, and I will say I was trying to, like, I am so bad at summarizing a movie briefly because, especially because we're trying to go over the gore, I think it forces me to have to get into deeper detail because I feel like I have to explain why things are happening.
Yeah. It's hard to just say the gore without setting up the situation, because it's a gore.
If it was just the movie premise, then we could get through it pretty quick. Yeah. But because there's all this detail in there that the story supports the gore in some sort of way, so we have to get a little deeper into it.
Kind of like explaining a joke in the sense that there's you need setup and release for the joke to be funny. You also need that for the gore to be effective. Like, to just have gore isn't nearly as effective as knowing there's a setup to why this is going to happen to this person, and now it's happening to them, and you have all these emotions attached to it because of the setup, and so you feel, and you actually have hopefully genuine emotions at the gore because of the fact that they set it up through storytelling.
Yeah.
A lot of horror movies do not bother with the story portion and just go for excessive gore, and those movies fucking suck because they're pointless.
And those are the movies I'm not interested in watching anyways, because there are so many talented filmmakers that specialize in horror movies. That is the whole reason why I wanted to do this podcast, so I can watch those things. So
yeah, because it's again, I think just because of the fact that horror is the one genre that you can essentially do whatever you want and people will accept it, compared to most other genres where it's like, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. But people don't really mind with horror because they're there just to have a terrifying experience. So you can be a lot more experimental with how you make people scared, rather than following a formula where it's like a buddy cop movie. You know the entire movie before it starts. It has all the same beats.
Exactly. I think that's why I had a hard time with watching movies like It, like the first It, like going into it and seeing it in theater. I think at one point, and I know that I'm bad with gore, but that movie wasn't gory. It was just kind of like
very jump scary.
Very jump scary.
The
and it got to the
soundtrack
point
alone destroyed the tension in that movie. The amount of times you hear, "Ree, I'm like, oh, here comes the clown. There's almost that exact sound every time he appears.
It leads up to every jump scare. It was like, oh my god, what are you doing? That's not what a jump scare is.
Or he's just standing there. It's just like, I get it, he's creepy looking, but You have to do more than just stand there staring at a kid looking spooky. Like,
I remember just at one point I was just laughing watching this movie and looking around at other people. I was like, what's happening?
It was something about the way that he said the name Georgie that was like, Georgie, come here, Georgie.
Oh, yeah.
I just, that stuck in my mind. Georgie,
come here, Georgie. Georgie.
He sounds like a gremlin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Georgie.
Come here, Georgie. Georgie.
Anyway, sorry.
There you go.
So we'll get into the premise now.
Yeah,
so we've already explained the beginning, and basically Deborah Logan and her daughter Sarah, they are basically, Sarah's trying to get her to sell her beautiful house, but Deborah doesn't want to. Deborah's not gonna have it, so
she's
this documentary crew, very independent, which you find out.
Company.
Yeah. So this documentary crew is coming over, and they're paying to basically document her descent into Alzheimer's. And we learn that Deborah used to be a pioneer in her age, and she was the first woman in her town to basically have a switchboard.
Mm-hmm. Single lady with her child, single mom, making it for both of them.
Which a switchboard is basically like connecting calls, right? So you're connecting
for all the youngsters out there. Back in the day,
I barely know what it is.
Yeah, well, so back in the day when telephones were very shitty and newer, you actually had people that had to route the lines from one phone connection to another phone connection. So that's why we used to have operators back in the day. Even when I was a kid,
I remember having an operator. Yeah,
you're pressing 0, and someone, actual human being, would be like, "Hello, I'm the operator. How can I help you?" And so now with modern technology, we don't need that anymore. But you used to have to, you couldn't just phone Bill down the street. You'd phone the operator and be like, "Hi, I want to talk to Bill." And it's like, "Oh, I'll connect you." Click. And they would physically reroute one line to another so that you could talk to Bill. And that's the whole person's job, is to just sit there and connect people to whoever they want to talk to. And so because of that, Deborah also was able to learn a lot of secrets about people, because like she says in the mentions of the movie, it's like, well, people have affairs, I have to dial them into their mistresses, and if they found out that I told people, I wouldn't get business. So I was just like a keeper of secrets, essentially.
Yes. Yeah, it was pretty interesting to hear about that. But that basically was kind of establishing that she's not going down without a fight, because she is very much like independent. She knows how to do things on her own, and she's used to being independent and solving her own problems. So she's like, I lift weights, and you see like this little lady just like with these like 5 pounds. It's like,
she looks like a strong gust of wind could blow her over. She's a very petite lady.
Very, very thin lady.
Also, she's very, the independence is like part of the struggle that she has with her daughter, because she doesn't even really want her daughter there. And Deborah doesn't actually even want the camera crew there, but she kind of makes a concession for her daughter, who's like fucking crying in front of her, saying, it's like, I can't pay the bills, what do you want me to do? So Deborah reluctantly does it for her daughter, and her daughter's constantly fighting with Deborah about how Deborah wants to be alone, and she can just go back to where she lives and leave her alone because she's fine. But her daughter obviously knows she's not fine.
Exactly. No, she is not fine. So that leads us into Deborah starting to get some really weird symptoms. Deborah. So and it's sort of established also early on that there's this neighbor that's always kind of around, that's helping her around the house and stuff, and they're always like digging in the garden.
A very friendly male neighbor, which is an odd kind of relationship that they have.
Just an odd thing. It's kind of, you get more detail about it later, but it was like, okay, thankfully everything does have a point to it.
Mm-hmm. I think he's the red herring of the movie, sort of, because it's like, that's kind of a horror trope. It's like the next door neighbor is kind of weird. He probably did it. So I think kind of he's intentionally a little bizarre so that you think that, oh, maybe he's the one that's messing with Deborah and he's not actually Deborah's friend.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's clever. So she has moments of aggression, which is kind of funny because it always seems to be like directed at Gavin, one of the filmmaker guys. It's always at him.
Because it's really bizarre. Like, she has like this real problem with the one guy in the movie, and I don't know if it's racially based or what, but
it's super random.
She is from the South, so she's an old white woman from the South who grew up in the 50s. So chances are fairly high she has some outdated thoughts. At the very least.
At the very least. She
every time she just goes after him, she like gets like a knife and tries to like attack him because she's looking for her goddamn garden spade. It's like, where's my spade? Yeah. You have my spade. It's like, whoa,
exactly.
Whoa. And he's like climbing over furniture.
I don't have your spade. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Like, ends up on top of the kitchen table just to like be away from it. It's like when you're hiding from a dog that's trying to get you.
Yeah. And there's a moment where I don't remember in which order some of these things happen because a lot of it kind of just blurs together.
Yeah.
But she's like nailing her window shut.
Yeah, that's more down the road once she's like progressed a bit more. When
that's
she starts
more
going
progression.
into the attic a lot.
Because the first thing you see that is shocking is she turns around and she rips her throat off.
Yeah.
And that is seemingly out of nowhere. Like, I think she had already been aggressive once.
And she had like a doctor and stuff. And
I think you see her digging outside at one point, and then
in the night. So generally, like the way the movie's structured is there's like the daytime scene where Deborah's doing pretty well. She's Deborah. Yeah. And then the nighttime scenes where she's very much not Deborah, doing weird, crazy shit, generally injuring herself in some terrible way, where that ends up her being returned to the hospital. She goes in and out of the hospital quite a few times in the movie because she just keeps doing really messed up stuff to herself. Like when she's digging in the garden, she's digging with her bare hands, so they're bleeding and covered in dirt. And like there's just this long, drawn-out scene of them cleaning her really fucked up fingers, and her just having this like 1,000-yard stare, like Deborah's not home.
Yeah, and I remember the scene after she rips her throat off, her like throat skin off, and she's in the hospital, and they're like getting her to like separate these colored blocks. She's like, I don't want to do it, and you see her like she starts like ripping her skin off again on one of her arms, and they're just like, then they have to like restrain her again, and they do more tests, and they're like, so she has a lot of symptoms for, like, this is what the nurse is saying to the camera. She's like, so she has a lot of symptoms for advanced Alzheimer's, but there are other things that are not correlated whatsoever. And then you're just kind of like, okay, so there's some unexplainable symptoms in quotations.
They call it like a skin condition that she gets. It's a hell of a skin condition.
Hell of a skin condition. It's like she's peeling her skin off and it's starting to get all nasty.
Her back is just like, oh, so gross with all like the spots and like her skin's like all dry and peeling and
So that's sort of like the first half of the movie is just she's injuring herself in the night. She thinks she's doing better during the day, but she's just like progressively getting more and more worse. And poor Gavin is just getting like more and more just like frustrated by this situation.
It's so great. I love the little like arguments that the cameraman and the PhD student who's like paying all of them to film this for her, like when they're bickering about like, I want double the money, shit's crazy. Then the other cameraman who's like actually holding the camera's like, well, if he gets double, I want double. And like, you see this PhD student, she's like, god damn it, like I just want to make this goddamn film. You're fucking bleeding me dry here, man. Gavin's like, I'll fucking leave right now. The Gavin train is heading out. That's what he said.
The Gavin train.
The cat, he's such like a hilarious, pretentious asshole too. Like he's commenting in the beginning on like all of her like old-fashioned like chandeliers and stuff. It's like, oh, is this Romanian crystal? It's like, who the fuck would know that?
Yeah, who the hell
So
cares?
he comes across as like a snooty kind of pretentious guy. So it's funny when she targets him the most. Just for
He's
whatever
trying to,
reason,
like,
she does not like Gavin.
Just doesn't like him at all. But yeah, she keeps getting hospitalized, and the symptoms cannot be fully explained by the disease
her
alone.
Porcelain dolls. She tries to eat her little creepy Rommel figures that a lot of old people have. It's just
eating the dolls, and there's like, so this is when stuff starts to be. It starts veering in the more paranormal direction when they find out that she's not in her bed in the middle of the night, and so they go looking for her, and there's like, I think it's Gavin again, or maybe I can't remember which cat. One of the camera
generally
guys.
always Gavin.
It's basically always Gavin. He finds like, there's like a trail of skin leading up to the attic. And he's looking around and it's dark, and this is where like one of the major jump scares happens, and it's like next to the nailed shut window, and you just see the camera pan over, and she's just standing there, and she's just in her like white nightgown, and he's like, what the fuck? And she's kind of bloody because she's like peeling some of her skin off, and then she's like, oh, don't stand near the window, because I think he shut the window, I guess.
Okay, so what happened is Gavin actually goes up to the attic by himself for this scene that you're talking about, because at this point he's so freaked out that he's like, it's fucking possession, it's demon shit, and he's the only one that believes us at this point. And he has a cross that he wears. He's like, this is my grandma's cross, I'm gonna put it on the window tonight, we're gonna see what happens.
Right.
So he puts it on the window, and then all of a sudden the window just opens up by itself, the cross falls off, and then Deborah's right beside her, and she's like, you're letting all of my air out. So
that's what it was. I thought that the window opened after, but maybe it was right before. Yeah, I feel like this is all blending together for me.
Well, yeah, and because there's a few scenes where she is in the attic specifically doing spooky shit, because that's where her switchboard thing is too.
Yes,
and that's when Deborah has a real bad night. That's probably the roughest night for poor Deb. When she's constantly like shedding her clothing, and then throughout the movie, but they normally catch her kind of before she gets fully naked, but this time they don't, and she takes off all of her clothes, goes up into the attic, and is like trying to like operate her switchboard, and she's just like jamming it into the same one over and over again, and that sets the actual like, through spooky demon magic, it activates the old machine that's broken, and it starts ringing throughout the house and wakes everybody up. And that's when they go to the attic and see her just fully naked, just trying to jam this thing into her telephone box. And that's when the mystery is kind of laid out.
So finally they've discovered, and Lewis and Gavin, they're the two camera people. They recorded her speaking while, like, this is all on camera.
Language. Devil
and
voice.
They've discovered that basically Deborah was speaking like French, and the voice that's coming out of Deborah is basically talking about sacrifices and snakes, and they learn that the number for the switchboard is 337, and they look through her like switchbook
her logbook. She like recorded every connection that she made. She was very like astute about her notes, so she never wanted to get rid of anything. She's like a hoarder too.
Yeah, so they notice that page has been ripped out. I don't remember where they find it. Oh no, they do this thing, the old like putting like charcoal on the back of the paper.
Oh yes.
Imprint trick, and that's how they find out
50s noir
that number,
sleuthing.
Yes, that line 337 belonged to a local physician called Henri Desjardins, who disappeared. Desjardins. Yeah, that's right. Desjardins.
Desjardins with my blasphemous pronunciation.
We started calling him Desjardins. He disappeared after a series of cannibalistic, ritualized murders of 4 young girls. Yeah, and that's when they start looking up stuff about him. There's like a whole documentary that they're watching in this like fake documentary, and you learn more about him.
Yeah, in the documentary, they go to the guy's, because he's like a pediatrician, and they go to his house. The cops do, after he's like been missing for a while because of a smell that people were complaining about. They find out that there's like a shitload of snakes that he was keeping in there, and like a bunch of weird sacrificial crap. They're like, oh, he did it. He definitely did it.
He did it, and
but they don't know where he went.
They don't know where he went. And someone in the documentary was talking about how it's a very specific ritual
where you require
people
to become
5 virgins while they're menstruating.
I don't remember that part.
Yeah.
That's
it was in the Wikipedia page.
Oh, God.
Yeah, they
Wikipedia. Getting all the details.
They're talking, because they mention it in... I remember them talking about it had to be during that specific time of the month for some reason. They explain it briefly. It is a blood ritual. Well,
because they do say that in the documentary they say something very like specific about they use the woman's lifeblood or something. So maybe yeah, I remember that part. I was like, what is it? Like, oh,
lifeblood. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's what.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, so basically, after this, and they've discovered all of this shit, Deb is hospitalized for her own safety.
Yeah.
And that's when we see the lovely back stuff, where her back is more scaly, and we see, like, the spinal tap.
That spinal tap is so gross. In case nobody knows, spinal taps are, like, considered, like, one of the most painful, like, medical procedures you can have to do, because it, like, they have to jam a needle right into your nerve endings of your spine, and they can't give you any anesthesia whatsoever. I heard a story. I used to watch a lot of Discovery Channel hospital documentaries as a child, and one of them recounted a person who got a spinal tap, and they were holding on to their mother's hand, and it hurt so bad that she broke her mother's hand from squeezing so hard. So that's never left my mind. Young 10-year-old Chris watching Discovery Channel medical.
Why would anyone need a spinal tap? What is that for?
It's like you need to get the fluid, which is only in your spine, and I believe it's for like if you have like really bad forms of cancer, like leukemia, and probably fucking up the type. But it's for very specifically, you need that fluid because it's used to help with your medical treatment. Or sometimes they have to, I think, inject things into your spine as well. So, yeah.
Ew.
Spinal tap.
That's gross.
Which
disgusting.
I like to think about the fake band rather than the medical.
Yeah, that's what I would prefer to think about. Yeah.
Watch the delightful British mockumentary Spinal Tap instead.
Yeah, so Deb she's going through some treatments and she's looking real rough. Her hair is falling out, her skin's getting nasty. And she's at night, she's in her hospital room and her neighbor comes back. And
that's right.
And Deb is just like, you hear her say she wants to die, and the neighbor's like, are you sure you want me to do this? She's like, yes, kill me. Kill me.
I am doing pretty bad. I don't want to really live. I'm in a lot of pain.
He grabs a pillow, and I'm like, oh my god, this is not going to do anything. He grabs a pillow, puts it on her head, and then the TV magically just is like thrown across the room and hits him in the back of the head.
Demon earthquake.
Demon earthquake, and the TV hits him in the back of the head.
He just gets nailed by an old shitty TV.
He just gets nailed by it, and At this point, the cameraman, Gavin, is convinced that it's all paranormal, and he's just like, fuck this shit, I'm out of here. And I was like,
He makes the wise
nice.
decision that any audience member would make. Finally, it's like the only movie I've seen where someone had the sense to actually leave the spooky situation.
And I think actually this, when he leaves, it's actually before the neighbor is nailed in the head with the TV, because I'm pretty sure they go back to the house and they're looking for this like dead person.
Yeah, I think
Desjardins.
Yeah, no,
and,
because
the
I
neighbor
think
is like shooting
does
them
he
up.
help? No, is he already gone when they find the corpse in the attic, or is that?
Right, I don't like it. See what I mean? It all blurs together, this movie.
Yeah.
Because it all takes place in basically the same areas.
The house or a hospital.
But the neighbor basically is shooting this camera crew at a certain point, and that's when
I think why he leaves, because the neighbor gets drunk. He's just firing off his gun like a crazy hillbilly.
Just firing off his gun, and then Gavin leaves, and like, good for you. You almost died. Just
Gavin
leave.
train out. That's why he says the Gavin train is leaving the station.
Out. It's so funny.
Great line.
He's out of there. Keep yawning. And they find out that Desjardins was supposedly trying to recreate an ancient Monacan ritual that would make him immortal. But required the death of 5 girls that, recently had their periods.
Gotta find women on their periods and a bunch of poisonous snakes to kill them with. Because I think using snake venom was part of the ritual. That's why
snakes were part of the ritual. And Sarah visits she's trying to find the neighbor to talk to him, and he's in the hospital, and he basically says, it seemed like with his dying breaths, I don't know if he was dying or not, but
I think he's pretty dead, but he doesn't come back in the movie.
He doesn't come back, and he basically said that she would have been the 5th victim.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to kill Desjardins.
You find out Deborah was the one that killed Desjardins.
Or sorry, Deborah killed Desjardins, and he was like helping her cover it up. Yeah.
But she murdered him, and then the neighbor helped cover it up by burying him in their garden, in Deborah's garden, alive. Apparently, he's like, we buried him alive, and we Deborah stabbed him with the spade, I think, in the neck. And that's why when she's all out of her mind, she's like, where's my spade? Where's my spade? And she's digging in the garden because she's digging for his body, essentially.
Yeah.
Because that's like, I guess the Alzheimer's kind of triggers her. But then you also kind of find out she's being controlled by him at night. And that's when like he would take over and get her to do crap for him.
Yeah.
To prepare the ritual.
Yeah, so in all of that happening, you kind of realize, like, okay, well, it definitely does seem like maybe Deborah is possessed by Desjardins.
Oh, yeah, super possessed at this point. Also, snakes have started to appear around the house, like crazy poisonous snakes that wouldn't live there.
Always snakes. Snakes are always there.
Yeah. I think at the first snake attacks Gavin, too. He's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Why are there snakes here?
There's just random snakes. And, so once they figure this out, then it's pretty evident that basically Desjardins is just trying to complete the ritual. And Deborah, at this point, has kidnapped a cancer patient in the hospital.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Poor little girl. And she also has bald hair that looks like Deborah's.
I know, because she's the cancer patient. So she's like
in this like weird trance that she just says, it's like, the man is nice, or something like that. Like, she says, like, she looks spaced out, like she's not all there.
Yeah, she is not all there. Something is going on with her. And, so, after this has happened, there's been, like, I think one attempt at getting the cancer patient. They find her, bring her back, but then she has an actual successful attempt, and she's out of the hospital. And then by this point, Try again. And at this point, Sarah and the remaining film crew have kind of like pieced together. It was like,
and cameraman.
Oh, fuck. Okay, so he's buried in the backyard. We have to go and get the remains and burn it. I think that's the way we got to deal with this.
Yeah,
so
because they go to Wise exposition guy who explains it all to them. Like, he's like this. He's only in the one scene of the movie. He's just like this like, I think a professor that explains the ritual, and that if you burn the original corpse, it will destroy the possession, essentially.
Right, yeah, because they were trying to get an exorcist, and that wasn't working.
Oh, yeah, because that's a great little kind of like homage to like The Exorcist, is the point where Sarah's so like just upset and I'm like confused of what to do. She calls a priest and it's like, you gotta give my mom an exorcist. And he's like, we don't actually do that. That's like made up. That's only in movies. It's like, well, I didn't believe in them, but I believe now. So can you please just do an exorcist? He's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm just a normal priest.
Has to go to a witch doctor.
Oh yes, exactly.
And so that's the exposition dude.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's just how they find the exposition dude, and like, because this
the whitest witch doctor I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, because it's this movie is found footage, it feels like it's harder to separate some of the scenes from one another. Yeah. So unless you're And it's like, I don't really want to scroll through the movie and go through it scene by scene because I don't want to rewatch some of the scenes.
I don't want to see it again, please.
Not really. So some of the things are blending together. So hopefully this is somewhat clear as to what's happening. But yeah, so they're going back to the area where they saw Deb digging near the statue.
In the garden, yeah.
In the garden, and they're starting to give up until they find her spades there, which makes them realize, like, oh, fuck, she's already gotten to it. So they're just searching inside the house for a place where she would hide a dead body, and they make their way up to the attic, and this scene was so stupid and so funny to me because they're like, oh, this looks like something that you could hide a body in, and then they go in and they're like, oh, I wonder what it is. I'm like, you literally are looking for a dead body. What the fuck do you think it is?
It smells like death.
It smells like death, and they open it and they're all shocked to see that it is indeed like a skull or something.
There's like a giant stain on the ceiling too that no one noticed, that just this black mold, like giant
in
circle
the shape
form.
Of a body.
Yeah. Did no one ever look up and just see that at any point? Because it would probably smell even through the attic. I don't think it's very scent-proof.
No, it didn't look like it. So, anyways, yeah, so that happens. They find it. Then they try burning it in the house.
But it's full of snakes!
Yeah, they open it up, and then suddenly it's just full of snakes, and then they have to run and escape from this thing, and you see,
they try to burn it the first time. They try to light it on fire in the fireplace, but it ends up just like blowing out, and it doesn't burn. And they
doesn't burn, and they run away, and you see the camera turn back, and you can see like a shadowed figure in the window looking out at them. Like, oh, it's Desjardins!
Desjardins!
It's Desjardins!
He stopped them from doing it!
It's Desjardins! He's in there. Yeah.
And because Deborah draws a bunch of spooky pictures of like the same window over and over again, and she draws like this little shadowy man, and it keeps getting like closer and closer.
Yes.
Until it's just the whole picture.
Didn't establish that. Yeah, we didn't really establish that well. But yeah, she's clearly very possessed throughout the movie.
Yes, you've come to realize she's super possessed.
Super possessed. So they decide to go to the caves, and thankfully the caves is where the original sacrifices happened.
Because I believe at that point they kind of give up on burning it because the police phone them and inform them that Deborah has taken the child, because you see like the very upset father screaming at the police, like, where's my daughter? And that's when they're like, okay, we're gonna round up a posse and go get Deborah and rescue that little girl. And so the cops, they're in the cop car, and they go to the mountain where he performed all of these rituals, was in this very specific mine under the mountain.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, she's probably there.
Yep. So thankfully they actually have police involved for once, which never happens in horror movies, because usually the police don't believe anything. It's like, oh, look at that. That's good. Okay. So they're there.
All right.
Everything's gonna be okay. And they get there, and you see Deborah with the little girl, and then you see that they're holding hands, and like Deborah's hand has no skin on it anymore, and they're trying to take the kid away from Deborah, and then Deborah just spits at them, and then you realize that her spit is acid, like it's snake venom.
Yeah.
And it burns their faces.
Fuck you.
Yeah, and she runs away with this, like, runs away with the little girl, and yeah, that's nice. And so there's like
off
this
in
chase,
her medical gown.
this chase scene, and they're trying to find her, and they're like, the film crew is like going through these tunnels, and then has to crawl
with the daughter.
through these.
The daughter's also with them, like getting. She's
with the daughter Sarah, she's
yeah.
invested. She's here the whole time. She's she's trying to save her mom, and they're scuttling through these caves trying to find them. And
there's also more snakes in the cave. They have to like just climb through a bunch of snakes, and like the daughter is just like, yeah, get out of here, and just like pushes the face of a super poisonous snake. It's like, oh, don't fucking do that, you totally get bitten. I'm like, how are they not fucking dead?
That's a bad idea.
I would have given up at that point and be like, nah, that's not worth it, I want to go with the snakes.
Nope, no thank you. No thank you. Yeah, and then you start hearing sounds of things, and you can see, like, there's a lot of moments of darkness where you as the viewer are kind of, like, left in the dark until this was the part where your girlfriend Vanessa was like, oh, please record Emma's face watching this scene, because I need to see this. And it's literally... when you finally see what's happening, you can see that Deborah is now like full on, her mouth is enveloping a child's head, like a snake trying to swallow something huge.
Yeah,
so her
unhinging
jaw
the jaw
is now... Her jaw is now like a snake jaw, I guess, and she's full on like eating another human.
Yeah, and she's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then when she sees them, she like pulls her mouth off, and it like, her whole face like opens up, and she's got like crazy snake mouth, and she's like hissing at them and stuff, and they try to like, I think like poke her with a needle, and that very much doesn't work. So they realize...
that was pretty stupid.
It's like, let's just poke her with a needle and make her go to sleep. I'm like, what the fuck does it matter? Even if she goes to sleep, she's gonna wake up and still be a snake monster. Like,
yes,
there's no coming back from this.
There's no coming back. And then I don't know how the remains got here too. This was another question I had, but I don't know, because they burn the remains in the cave, remember?
Yeah, that's how they break the spell.
So they break the spell by burning their remains, but I just don't know how the remains got there.
Yeah, I guess maybe one of them grabbed it as they like left to go to the police. I'm not sure exactly, but yeah, we probably weren't paying.
Anyways, the remains are there. They burn it, and Deborah is no longer cursed by this demon thing, but she's kind of fucked for the rest of her life. Like, she can't walk anymore. She's like...
Also, she's, like, in a lot of legal trouble. She's, like, made
100%.
to police officers, kidnapped a child twice.
But they do deem her not mentally fit to withstand a trial, which I think was fair because
because like when you see her
fucked.
again, she can't even speak anymore. Like within a few days, I think they say that the Alzheimer's essentially just like cripples her whole body, and she like jumps a bunch of stages. And it's also kind of interesting because that's when you realize that without her being possessed, the Alzheimer's takes over way quicker. And so part of the reason why she was as coherent as she was for as long as she was actually because she got possessed by this guy.
Yeah.
And he slowly took her over, but it also allowed her to live longer. So it's like, oh, that's an interesting way of doing it. And kind of shows that he needed a host that had something very physically wrong with them so that he could invade their body, essentially.
Yeah, it was more fragile, more
a weakened state.
A weakened immune system.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, some our demon possessions work,
Something, mental... it's a good way to justify it.
Mm-hmm. Can't fight it.
So then so you see that she's basically completely useless now. Like she's in a wheelchair. She's a vegetable. Yeah, she's a vegetable now. And then we see like a little news featurette of the kid that was basically captured, and she's
Mini
recovered
Deborah.
From what?
Mini Deborah.
Oh, Mini Deborah.
Her hair. They look like little twins.
Yeah, that's right.
It's hilarious.
But now you see her and she's completely cured from cancer, and she's having her birthday and all that, and
it's a
she
miracle.
seems super happy. It's a miracle. And then the news anchor, I forget what they ask her. It's like, oh yeah, it's like, so are you happy? Do you have plans for the future? And she's like, I do, but it's a secret. And it just like cuts to her face, and she just like looks all evil into the camera. And you're like,
gives her best creepy little kid smiling.
It's Desjardins.
It's a Desjardins smile right there.
No, it's a Desjardins smile, or so whoever the demon is. Yeah, but
my eye than the demon Desjardins.
Demon Desjardins.
I never knew that demons could be French.
Desjardins from Montreal. So that's that movie.
That means he was an evil Canadian. Very few horror movies have villain Canadians in them.
That's true. It's the best villain Canadian I've ever seen.
Right.
So that movie, I feel like it's funny because recalling this movie, it was like, I feel like I have Alzheimer's with like recalling this. Like, it's all jumbling together. But watching it, I think, it's a good movie. I think it's very effective in keeping you tense. You definitely, it doesn't feel like it relies on any cheap scares, because you see she gets angry quite a few times when she forgets something, which I feel like is very realistic for someone that is used to being independent, So
and
there's
she doesn't
multiple
remember
layers.
because she doesn't remember what she does at night. So it's kind of sad when she's like they're telling her what she did the night before, and she doesn't remember doing any of it. So like you can see how frustrated she is by like clearly these things did happen, but she wasn't in control of any of it. So it's like which I have to imagine. Apparently, to sell the movie, the director used this actual documentary that filmed, which I'm assuming the movie is kind of based off of, is this documentary that does film this person's decline with Alzheimer's, and and how like actually truly horrifying it is, because they said that they filmed it in like a 2-year gap. So the first time they filmed that person, they were like pretty together and still coherent, but then the 2-year gap, they film them again, and they're so gone that they have to be in like an adult high chair because they can't just sit on their own. They they would flow through like emotions, like extreme emotions within seconds. They'd be like extremely angry, super depressed, and it would just rattle, and like your brain is just essentially firing off everything because it's just like not working properly anymore. And it's like, yeah, he said like watching someone like succumb to that disease is pretty horrifying, because the director too also had like an uncle who had Alzheimer's, and so he also was affected by it, and his like greatest fear is getting Alzheimer's. So it makes sense to me, this movie.
It's so terrifying. Yeah, I wish there was a cure.
Yeah, they were. Well, and they talk about too at the very beginning just what happens to Alzheimer patients. And that's probably the scariest part of the movie, because they tell you how late stage Alzheimer's becomes so bad that your brain forgets how to breathe, and so you will just suffocate to death because you can't even. Your brain can't even accomplish the basic motor functions necessary to keep your body going. And they just show this picture of this unfortunately dead woman who dies from Alzheimer's, and I have to imagine that's a real photo of a person who passed from Alzheimer's, because it's just like horrifying looking in this really like normal way. It's like there's no supernatural elements. It's just this old person who's like almost dried up. They look,
they are raisined.
They can't take care of themselves anymore. They probably can't eat or drink. So you just be dehydrated, and your body would just eat itself until there was like nothing left, essentially.
Yeah,
real fun way terrifying. To go.
So scary. Yeah. Cool. So, yeah.
Don't get a brain disease, kids.
Yeah. Try your best to stay healthy.
Do Sudoku.
Oh God, I should start now.
Start doing Sudoku and crosswords.
Start
Anything
doing
to keep
it.
that brain going.
I'm doing crosswords in French right now.
Hey, there you go. You're probably using two parts of your brain then.
Learning a language, I'm hoping, will help, because it
keep those synapses firing.
Because learning a language, you use your whole brain when you're learning another language.
Hard.
It's like the same with music. It's like the same as trying to learn another language, because it uses both sides of your brain at once.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Huh. That's why my music instructor in high school used to give out stickers that says, "Music makes me smarter." And it's literally just because it uses both sides of your brain at once. So it makes doing other forms of problem solving easier.
Oh, yeah. That's really good. Oh.
Yeah, so play music. It's good for you.
I read this study where they actually they found out that if you play Mario, it actually helps prevent Alzheimer's, because it uses like the parts of your brain that generally don't get used and that affect Alzheimer effects. And so they did a test, and like old people that played like the original Nintendo Mario for 30 minutes a day actually were more cognizant than people that didn't. They said it can actually be used as a good tool for the elderly, because they generally can't do a lot, and it's super easy just to press two little buttons, and so it's just like the right amount of stimulation they need. So video games save lives.
Gonna play more video games.
Right. Oh, you don't want to get Alzheimer's, you gotta play video games.
Yeah. Exactly. Sweet. Yeah, so that's the overall. That is the overall movie.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you have any extra little tidbits?
Yeah, there's a few. It was kind of hard to find too much about this, because it's pretty very unknown movie. Actually, it's really weird. The movie's like title has been changed like multiple times, where it's like it was called The Taking of Deborah Logan and The Possession of Deborah Logan, and I think at one point it was just called Taken or Deborah Logan. So there are a few different versions of the actual name, but we watched The Taking of Deborah Logan, and I just kind of found some stuff through IMDb, and Jill Larson, who plays Deborah, she's actually like really not known for anything. None of the actors really are, but she was like a soap opera star specifically, and she was on the soap opera All My Children from 1989 to 2011.
Oh wow! Okay.
It's a long ass time for one TV show. That's That's solid work. So I
That
wonder
is.
if that really helped, because soap operas are so like dramatic and like overly emotional.
Yes.
Like playing someone who has Alzheimer's and has all these like crazy mood swings, also being possessed. So I'm like,
Probably.
that's probably like really useful, having all that really cheesy soap opera
Yeah.
experience. She was also on Young and the Restless. So,
Ah, okay.
in case you ever had a spat in your life where you watched soap operas. I had
My
a friend in
old
high school who watched
roommate.
soap operas religiously.
Same, but it was my roommate in art school. I would just get home and she'd just be sitting there watching. She'd watch The Young and the Restless. She'd watch that one. So I probably have seen her
That's so
on
funny.
that show.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, probably, yeah. Like, she used to watch Days of Our Lives. I think that
Oh,
was-
she'd watch that one too. Yeah.
It's just like so
Trashy.
weird. I tried
So
watching
trashy.
an episode of a soap opera once, and I couldn't get through more than like 2 minutes of it. They're so
It's terrible.
Oh, the acting in it is so bad. But I found out that you have to just pound through dialogue. Like, there are pretty much no second takes, because you have to pump out so many lines from these actors. So it's just like boom, 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 boom. And so
Yeah.
a lot of people who work on soap operas are like, it's like just surviving in that world is challenging because of the fact of how much product you have to like film at once and how little time
Oh,
you have to do
no.
it. Hence why they're all so cheesy and like low budget.
Yeah. Well, that's like working in kids' TV shows as an animator versus in feature films. So
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. As a person who currently works on a kids' TV show, I understand this.
just the amount of animation you have to produce is a lot more. Footage, yes.
But yeah, so, but, the gore and stuff's pretty standard. There's nothing really, like, standout-ish. Like, the snake mouth was
Yep.
definitely just kind of like a CG effect. They had some cool prosthetics, but nothing too mind-blowing, nothing worth kind of really diving too deep into. But what I did dive too deep into was discovering, one, that this movie was produced by Bryan Singer. I'll just say I'm not sure if it's concrete, but at least allegedly Bryan Singer is a bit of a creep. And I'll just say he used to hang out with Kevin Spacey a lot. He doesn't really make movies anymore. So
All right.
there's a lot of stories about him and his penchants for young boys. And when I watched an interview with this director, I was like, that's a young-looking man. And so I started then just kind of looking at his like film career, and the way he talked about himself in his interview kind of gave me some interesting clues, where he said the only reason he came out to Hollywood was literally to become famous. He just wanted to be famous, and he started out as a male model. And he somehow met Bryan Singer from way back in the day. That's what he said. I knew Bryan from way back in the day. And so I was like, well, what? Maybe he was like actually an actor in his movies, and I'll look at his IMDb. The only movie that he's in of Bryan Singer's is in the first X-Men movie, where he plays Guy in Line. That is his title credit, is Guy in Line.
Guy in Line.
It's like in one scene somewhere in the background of the first X-Men movie, and then nothing else to speak of, really, except he was in these short films, and I took a look at one of them, and it's called like Attack of the Werebear. And it's this it's filmed in 2011, but it looks like a film from the 50s. It's so poorly shot, and it's just, and I think it might be kind of like leaning towards kind of like a sexploitation kind of horror movie, because I found an image, which I sent to you, where the director / writer of The Taking of Deborah Logan is screaming while he's wearing what only looks like a diaper and soap on a rope, and he's in a men's locker room with about 7 other naked men behind him, all wearing diapers and screaming.
I was very confused by that image, by the way.
It's just like,
it's like, what is this?
It's like, oh, okay, well, this is all speculation based off of me just looking at crap on IMDb. But putting all those tiny crumbs together forms what looks like a sexual predator cookie.
So, the worst type of cookie.
Terrible cookie. Terrible cookie. But yeah, so I don't know if any of that's true. I say allegedly for all of this, just in case someday someone watches this and tries to sue us for, or specifically me, for slander of fucking Brian Singer. Yeah. Oh, Brian Singer.
All
so,
right.
That is essentially the true horror that I found out about the Taking of Deborah Logan.
It is.
Real life,
that is horrible.
Possible horror. But just when he said he was a young guy that just came to Hollywood and he wanted someone to give him a career, I was like, I bet Brian Singer gave him something for that career.
Oh.
Yeah, that's about that's all I have to say about the Taking of Deborah Logan.
Okay.
It's a wonderful movie. I'm really happy that guy, whether he did or didn't have to do degrading things, I hope he's successful now in his career, that doesn't have to do that anymore. He made that popular new horror movie, which I thought was kind of shit, but people liked it. It was about like escape room, where it's like a killer escape room, like those rooms that people
pay to. Is it like The Cube?
Oh yeah, yes, that's fair. Wow, I'm surprised you know The Cube.
I don't know how I know The Cube.
Deep Canadian cut.
I think I started watching it, and then I got scared. It seemed kind of good. I got scared, though.
I got scared.
I got scared. I didn't want to see people die.
Yeah, there's a lot of death. There's a lot of spooky cube rooms.
Yeah, there's a lot of like people being cut up by like lasers and stuff.
Yeah, like each room is like a different type of trap, and
because it's a puzzle. Yeah. Yeah, but I feel like that one was a good one.
Yeah, it was like it was like a really cool concept, but it was super low budget. So it's Canadian too. But I think it kind of like kicked off that guy's career, and they made a bunch of spin-offs of it, I think. Like really bad sequels.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, yeah.
Q2, still square.
Still square.
Well, actually, no.
It's kind of like
should be on the top.
Squid Games.
Oh yeah, that was another show that I like watched the first 10 minutes of and thought, I don't need to watch this. This looks kind of dumb.
It's actually good. I liked it.
Oh, is it?
But it is, yeah, it's one of those ones that was really hyped up and I didn't want to watch it, but then I watched it and was like, okay, fine, it's kind of good.
I thought it looked a lot like this Japanese movie Battle Royale, which is an awesome...
I've seen that too, yeah.
Oh, have you? That's really fun.
I watched it a long time ago. A coworker recommended it to me and I watched it with a friend and I did not like the gore, but I watched it. I don't remember everything. I don't know if I watched all of it fully.
You just need to know that a bunch of school kids murder each other brutally with weapons. It's what Hunger Games should have been.
Yeah, it's like the precursor to Hunger Games, yeah.
Yeah, Hunger Games was the whitewashed version of that.
Yes,
rather than all the kids
100%.
being mean, how about we just make them pretty white people?
I know. Yeah.
Look at all these models murdering each other in the field.
That is not what it would look like.
No.
In any way. No.
But we don't need to digress into our opinions on Battle Royale versus the Hunger Games.
Further
I guess.
to this.
Yeah. So we had to segue away from Sex Predator somehow before we could end this.
We did. That's how we did it.
So
with the cube.
Taking of Deborah Logan is probably one of my favorite found footage movies. One of the few that I actually think are well done. And I definitely suggest this to people. It's a fun movie that does a good job of kind of flipping back and forth on what you think is happening to her. Like, you're not sure sometimes. It's just, does she have Alzheimer's? Okay, now she's definitely possessed. But then at the end, they kind of combine the two, which I thought was clever. And overall, it's a good watch. I've watched it, like 4 or 5 times now. And
wow.
Still effective.
It is a freaky movie. I wouldn't say it's a fun romp through a field of roses, but it is a good spooky movie that definitely utilizes an old person with Alzheimer's in a scary way, and it's good. It's well done. Yeah.
Well, stay tuned for part 3 of our Old People trilogy. Dun, dun, dun.
I can't wait.
I promise you'll like the next one a lot more.
Okay, I hope so.
Stay tuned to see if Emma does.
Yay!
All right, podcast's over.